Hey, I'm Dustin.
And I'm Steve. Welcome back, listeners, to the finest phototainment in the world. That's right, you're listening to the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast. We are an irreverent look at photography. This podcast, like aspirin, will help you recover from your wedding hangover. Man,
What'd you do?
I changed what I wrote at the beginning for an episode a while ago, and then the last two times I've gone to read the opening, it's been wrong because I pulled up the wrong thing. I need to just delete this. It's from one of the interviews we did a while back. I rewrote the intro, for it. Oh man, Dustin,
It's a tough life.
it's a very tough life. It's even tougher because when I'm having problems like this, I can't vape anymore.
Yeah, so you're giving up your vape stick?
Everyone's giving up their vape sticks. I don't know if you heard about this, Dustin. Vapes are killing people. No. And I thought this is very relevant news to anyone who would be listening to our podcast. So we probably should talk about this. Stop vaping now. The federal government has said that vaping is too cool. You all look way too cool doing it. It probably feels way too good. Also, a few people may or may not have died. But mostly the cool stuff is what they were getting at, I believe. Yeah, they're just sick of everybody looking cooler than them. Because you can't vape when you're in office. It's probably the reason most people who would be really good at president haven't been able to run yet. Because, the no vaping rule for president.
Mm. I know it really hurt my dad because my dad owns a few rental properties in a few areas of town where he keeps thinking, man, a vape shop would just be so good right here.
Is he going to open a vape shop?
Not anymore. So much for all this vape inventory we have now.
Oh, your dad bought vapes. He's vaping. He's a vapor.
I think we just bought the after vape sales, not knowing about the news.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'd love to hear about it. Oh, man, Dustin. So you wanted to tell me a story about somebody from Amazon.
Well, I had a heavy day of shooting like a madman on a day where I didn't think I was shooting anything.
Mm-hmm. You couldn't vape to, get over that.
I couldn't take the edge off with a good old vape stick. So
Dustin isn't much like his father. He's an avid vapor.
I'm almost transparent. I'm so vapor-like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I saw a little article that popped up on my news feed, and I was like, my goodness, Steve, this will bring a smile to your face. It was an article about Amazon announcing all of their new products that they have coming out. And it was an interview with an Amazon executive while he was doing his audio and microphone wearing Apple AirPods while he announced the new Amazon Echo Pods.
I mean, he was announcing a product. Has it even gone out yet to the peoples?
Apparently not to him.
Yeah, I mean, you can't fault him for that. Amazon is selling these Echo Pods so quickly, their own executives can't get a pair. That's how crazy it is over there. He had to, use a second-tier AirPod to do his interview.
Yeah, we don't even know. Could have been a first generation.
Yeah, I mean, do the Echo Pods pair with iPhones? Is this their back door? They're like, you know what? We're going to make Echo Pods, and now we're going to try to bring back that Echo phone that was such a huge failure. We're going to bring it back.
Because I even have a whole picture of him with the Echo Buds ad campaign.
I love it.
And then the after keynote interview with him wearing the AirPod. What's funny is I'd like to think it was probably the news station handed him the AirPod so he could hear what the reporter interviewing him was saying. I'm guessing it's not something that he was like, oh, let me get out my AirPods so I can do this interview.
Yeah. So many news stations are like, we have, thousands of dollars invested into these in-ear monitors, but let's pull out some, $100 AirPods instead and just see how those go. I'm sure that's what happened, Dustin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just want to know how they know it's an actual authentic Apple AirPod and not like one of the millions of generic ones that Amazon sells.
Maybe. So you want to defend him by saying that he bought something from Amazon. Still not the Echo Buds, but just a cheap ripoff of an AirPod.
But it's the 1999 Bluetooth knockoff.
Oh, man.
Called Blue Pods.
Yeah. No, I've got, a swimming pool full of Blue Pods over here. They're great.
Yeah. Should be great. Could be great. Would be great.
Do we...
What are you drinking over there, Steve?
Oh.
Steve, what are you drinking?
Oh, you're doing this? Is this your way of telling me you don't have anything to drink? Because typically I ask you're like, oh man, and then you make up something about drinking water or something.
I went to the refrigerator to grab a beer for this episode, and I stared at my beer collection, and I thought, gosh, if I drink a beer right now,
what am I going to do with all these Bud Light Limes? Is that what you thought?
This would be such a waste of all of these coffees I've been drinking this evening so that I can stay up and work.
I've got so many strawberritas in here.
Exactly.
I just don't want to waste one on Steve.
I just have all these summer beers, and now it's fall. It's like the official first week of fall, and I have no good fall beers.
That's sad. That's sad for you. I have a great fall beer here. It is a Screamsicle Ale from Scarlet Lane, the Screamsicle Horror Hound Ale, to be specific.
I think Whorehound was not needed. I think they could have just gone with Screamsicle. I think that name is good enough.
Well, Horror Hound is an established brand, so this is like a Screamsicle version of the Horror Hound.
It's an established brand of what?
A beer at Scarlet Lane. It's like getting Eric Bloodaxe bourbon barrel aged as opposed to just Eric Bloodaxe,
So it's a brand within a brand.
This is the Screamsicle Horror Hound.
It's like Budweiser is the parent company, and then they have Bud Light, and this would be like the Bud Light Lime.
Yeah, you nailed it. And I mean, you're real close there because this does have vanilla, tangerine, and sweet orange flavors to it. They're really...
How is that a fall beer?
They're really playing up that the Dreamsicle vibe. Mm-hmm. It's a fall beer because I'm drinking it and it's fall.
Okay.
Because it's heavy. Like it's not a light beer, buddy.
Orange, vanilla.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Sounds light and airy.
I mean,
just like your photos.
ABV wise, yes, it is light and airy. It's only 4.4%, but it's delicious, man. It's delicious. It's got that creamy goodness, It's like a
nutritious,
thick, nutritious beer. And
just sprinkle some of your protein powder in that.
When I can't be, vaping, what am I going to go for? I guess this is all I have left.
That's what you have to rely on in this world.
Yeah. Dustin, do we have any follow-up? Is there anything we needed to talk about from any past episodes? Any ghosts that are haunting us? We're getting close to Halloween.
It's not October yet, man. I've still got lots to do before that month gets here.
That month's getting here in like 5 days.
Stop it. Bite your tongue.
All right, Dustin, you want to break into the show then?
Let's break this show wide open, Steven.
Yeah, Dustin, you said you wanted to talk about the iPhone versus the Pro? What is this? Break this down for me. You found an article in Insider Mag, and why did you think it was worthwhile talking about it?
Well, I think there's constantly a debate, not only on our podcast, but other people's stuff, Facebook pages, other podcasts. I mean, really, the only, most people just come to us for their information, but every now and then, they see things elsewhere. And I thought this was worth a gander. It's a bride and groom who are asking for a refund, I believe.
I don't think they're asking for a refund. I think they were just complaining. Right?
I would have asked for a refund, but they hired a photographer for $800. And then somebody during family portraits snapped a photo beside the photographer with their, wait for it, iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And when they got their photos back from their quote-unquote professional photographer of $800, they were upset that the iPhone photo was better than the photographer's deliverables. So, I mean, it's just really one thing that was really clear to me was obviously this photographer was shooting Canon.
I don't understand. I would say obviously this iPhone photographer had an iPhone 11 Pro and shooting in night mode. I'm looking at the photos and I'm pretty certain it was very dark all day long. And they had to shoot for the darkness.
For the darkness.
Yeah. I'm looking at these photos. They look like they're all shot at about f1.2 ISO 6400 and maybe 1/60 for the frame rate. And it's a shame the photographer couldn't use any flash to light this stuff up. It would have made their job a lot easier. Instead, they're shooting by moonlight, it looks like, most of the time.
Yeah, those outdoor photos where the blue sky with those clouds.
I know, it's amazing what they were able to do.
Detail in the sky.
It's amazing what they were able to do.
Well, the moral of this story, folks, is when you pay $800 for wedding photography, just take that $800, add a little bit more to it, like double it almost, and then go buy a really talented friend an iPhone Pro Max and let him shoot your wedding. That's really the moral of the story.
I mean, Dustin and I have said we would shoot stuff if people bought us.
Yeah, now that Steve has an iPhone Pro, the offer is now valid that Steven, that you and I can shoot a wedding for free, but on an iPhone.
Yeah. It's a valid offer, I suppose. I've still told you I wouldn't shoot for free ever. So
I'll buy you a beer.
What beer?
We'll see.
Doesn't I don't know. They were really crappy photos. They only paid $800. I don't know what they were expecting. So I really thought when I looked at the photos from that Insider Mag thing that once they transitioned to outside, the photos would be brighter, but they weren't. And it makes me feel like maybe the photographer's camera was broken. Or maybe the photographer just didn't know what they were doing. I don't know. It could be either one.
Or maybe the photographer's broken.
Maybe the photographer's what is broken?
The photographer in general.
Yeah. We're all, as photographers, a little bit broken, I would say.
We're all as people, Stephen. We're all as people, just a little bit.
But specifically
damaged.
photographers, I don't think you become a photographer unless you're broken inside. Why would you want to interact with the world when you could interact with glass that is in between you and the world? That is a photographer for you right there. Boom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Voyeurs, professional voyeurs. We're just always watching everybody else.
Yeah. I do think that there's something to be said about that. I don't know what it is. Do you want to talk about your accident?
Yeah.
It's been in the show notes for far too long. It was like a year ago.
I wrote a whole thing out in the notes, and I was like, man, I don't even know that I want to talk about this, though. Okay, so I think most people knew that about a month and a half ago, Jen and I got in an accident on the way to a wedding. And
Steve lost his genitalia.
Yeah, it's all gone. Smooth as a Ken dowel down there, baby. Well, a Ken dowel that maybe had his groin put through a meat grinder for a little bit. But, yeah. You know how it is. So
do I?
You do. Most people listening don't, but you would do.
Do I?
I was in Sierra Leone with you. I saw what the drone did.
Saw what the drone did.
There's a reason why we were told we could never go back.
There's a reason DJI sends those settlement checks.
Yes. So a little while ago, Jen and I, we got in a minor accident on the way to a wedding, and it sucked. I was driving at the time, and I hit a pothole, and I didn't see it. It's not like I saw it, and I could have swerved, and, I might have missed it. I didn't I didn't see it. I didn't know it was there. Jen did, and she said for her it was terrifying because it was a bigger hole, you know. So, when the car hit the pothole, there's a pretty substantial jolt. When our like tire hit it, like to the car, like a lurch, like, you know, like when you hit something.
Was this your new car?
I mean, it's not really new anymore. It's like 2 years old. And
your newer car.
Almost immediately, our tire sensors went off, saying that they were low on air pressure. So we pulled off the road and called a tow truck, and then Jen took an Uber to the wedding while I dealt with the car stuff. We couldn't get a rental because all the rental places were already closed on Saturday because it was that late when our wedding was starting. And we also couldn't get the tires and rims replaced because there were no tire and rim places open on Saturday that late. So it was awesome. So we had to figure out a way to get to the ceremony, the reception, and then back home without a car. And that was a lot of fun and, you know, not super stressful and didn't make us want to murder anyone. Specifically murder me, I think. Actually, Jen was like really surprisingly cool with it. Still has been super cool with it. And I have just been blaming myself because I was driving and it's my fault. But anyway, our good friend Ryan Woodall of Vow in Forever photography, he came and he shot for me while I was taking care of the car. And then after the car got like dropped off at a place where it could get fixed, because no places were open that could actually like, you know, fix it. So I just had to leave the keys and walk away. A great feeling when you just leave your keys at a place in downtown Indianapolis. So he shot for me until I was able to get there. I just took an Uber over. And then at the end of the night, one of our friends, Maya Issa, who's like a videographer in town, and she was doing video at that wedding, and she gave us a ride back to our house at the end of the night. She also gave rides to Jen to a few different places throughout the day, since we didn't have a vehicle. And I rode with the bride and groom in their bus the whole time. So that was terribly painful for me. I don't like to be on the bus with. Yeah.
There's those who like to be on the bus and those who don't. And Steven, you fall, my friend, on the anti-busser crowd.
Yeah. I like to be on the bus when I'm attending a wedding. I just don't like to be on the bus when I'm working a wedding. I feel like I don't have any control. It's dark. People are always looking at me like, why aren't you taking a photo right now? It's like, you're all just sitting in seats drinking. It's not a photo-worthy event. Like, so I don't like it. But I made the most of my time. I got some photos of the bride decided to sit on the groom's lap the entire time as opposed to sitting in a seat. So I got a few good photos of that. So it was worth it for me to be in the bus. And, you know, if our car hadn't broken down, I probably wouldn't have been in there. So maybe it worked out better that way. I don't know. It didn't. It did not.
It's karma, man.
Yeah. Total karma. So the reason why it's taken over a month for me to finally say anything about this on the podcast is because we've had so many damn guests. No, that's not the real reason. The reason is because I've been kind of messed up with regards to my mental health ever since, and I've been really struggling to deal with it. So it's been about a month and a half, and even now I feel queasy just thinking about it. And for like the past month, I feel panicky and sweaty every time I have to drive a car. And Jen has also mentioned...
you did that Instagram stories about like running late to that engagement session the other day?
Yeah, it was great. I was going 5 miles per hour when I shot that in my neighborhood. So it's great. Yeah. Jen has mentioned feeling anxious when she's in the car too. And, you know, it's worse on days when we're going to shoot weddings. Like, I feel like there's more of a chance we won't make it. More of a chance, there's more anxiety. Just more anxiety. My anxiety is at a whole new level. It's fantastic, Dustin. Can I tell you how fantastic it feels to feel like you're just falling forever and ever every time you have to think about getting in a car to drive to a wedding? It's great, buddy. So good.
I ran out of gas once on my way to a wedding. That was like not anywhere near or around, like, you know, Indiana. It was like a random country club, like a country club in the country, golf course. And it was back when I used to DJ weddings. So I had my little 2-door Chevy Cavalier filled to the brim with DJ equipment.
Nice.
And no gas. It was literally terrifying. I was like, these people, their wedding ruined, gone.
You ruined a wedding? Is that why you had to get out of the DJing business and into photography? Because your name was Mud.
I had to make
your
a
name
lateral
was Mud
move
in that town.
But no, luckily somebody drove by, saw me, and had a gas can, drove me to a gas station, and it all worked out. But it's still to this day, when the gas, thing gets to like a quarter of a tank, I like freak out and I have to get gas. And I get really mad at Corinne when she lets it get low.
Oh yeah.
My gosh.
Jen's always like bringing the car home on E. It's a source of frustration in our relationship.
Oh yeah. Ours too, because Corinne will bring it home on E, and then we'll be like needing to go to an engagement session or a wedding or what have you the next day, and we're always really rushed and late getting out the door as it is. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, now we have to get gas or else I'm going to have an anxiety attack on the way to the wedding.
To be fair, I also left the car basically on E the other day, and Jen had to drive out to meet with a client. So it goes both ways. Yeah. But I mean, I don't feel the pain of it. I don't get upset about it when I do it. It's only when Jen does it. It's funny how that works, It's
just about valuing your spouse's time, I think, is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. And obviously I don't value spouse's time, only my own.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly. Yeah. So big thanks to Ryan Woodhall and who was the videographer?
Maya Isa.
Yeah. Is that how you say it?
No, not at all. Yeah. That was weird. Why would you say it like that?
I don't know. It just felt like it needed some
Yeah. But I mean, it's been weird too. It's like not just on wedding days, like every night when I go to bed and when I close my eyes, I kind of feel like the seatbelt tightening against my chest. And I also feel like when I shut my eyes, it's like I can hear the crunch of the car hitting the hole, like the tire. I mean, we didn't have like any metal that broke really. The rim was a bend, but yeah. And so it's been rough. It's just been a really, really rough time.
So just to be clear, nobody was hurt.
Nobody was hurt even.
Everything worked out.
Nobody was hurt. Everything worked out. It was
and
just...
you still are having anxiety attacks.
Yeah, it was just
should probably see somebody.
Yeah, no, I agree. I 100% agree with that. But that's why I've been avoiding talking about it on the podcast. And no, as you can see in the statement I wrote out, Dustin, I haven't been to a doctor yet.
I didn't know I needed to read the statement. I thought the statement was for you to read.
It was, because I've been having trouble processing these feelings. And actually writing this out really helped a lot. It helped me to feel a little bit less anxious. So it's been good. But
there you go.
Yeah.
That's why we do this podcast, Stephen, for your mental health.
Yeah. Now let's do some jokes and forget about this. Can we forget about this? Can we just put this into a box and lock that box into a cupboard somewhere far away where I never have to think about it? That's healthy, right? This is why I don't need to see a doctor.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's me, Dustin. That's what I've been going through.
I just realized that this question on here was directed to me.
Oh yeah. So Dustin, let's move on with the podcast. Let's get away from the part where Steve is vulnerable and talks about a terrible thing that happened that in the grand scheme of things wasn't really that terrible. Like nobody got injured. We didn't miss any part of the wedding. Everything actually went off pretty fine. It was just like a reminder that like we could all die at basically any second, and it left my world spinning and made me feel like my chest was falling into a black hole. So, not really a big deal at all. Mental health, that's not a real thing. Only physical health matters in America. So, yeah, let's push on because not a big deal at all. And let's talk about you, buddy. Dustin, you have a video client you've been working with.
Thanks, man.
And why is your video client, who has you on retainer as their videographer, their sole videographer, why is that video client then hiring a different videographer to shoot stuff for them? Right. And paying that videographer more than they pay you on retainer?
Great question. No f***ing idea. Now, the only way I've been able to wrap my mind around this is to think about it like this. Okay, so the client itself, let's think of the client as a company, like a major entity. Let's call them Apple.
You'd almost say like it's somebody who's like running for some sort of thing.
Like an Apple.
Yeah, running for like an
so
Apple.
Let's say Apple is like, hey man, we're going to need a ton of videos and photos between now and, I don't know, November.
And, that's weird. It's so weird that it's in November.
And they're like, we don't want to have to constantly be looking for freelancers because we know you, we know your work's amazing, and we know we can count on you. So we're going to put you on retainer to be our go-to person for all things media. Okay? Then, a few months later, they're like, let's hire an advertising agency to kind of help us with the concepting and all of that stuff. Now, granted, the ad agency has been a part of this from the beginning, but they're taking more control of the creative side
of the running of the Apple.
And the owner of the ad agency is just always works with this other video guy.
Would you say that like the person that you're working for, just to circle back on something we were talking about earlier, would you say that they can or cannot vape after November, depending on how things go?
I wouldn't know.
So probably not, though.
I just know an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Would you say that vaping might hurt their chances of accomplishing their goals in November?
No, I would say it might help. I don't know.
Yeah. Would you?
The pothead vote is very powerful.
Oh, vote! Whoa, we were talking about voting.
Whoa, eating apples.
So, anyways, back to what you were saying about this freelancer that they're hiring to displace you.
This is just a guy that they use often, and it just seems like it's kind of second nature for him to just pick up the phone and call him to do like the meat and potatoes of the videos that we've been putting out. All the B-roll and all of that is still mine, and I've done about 50 to 70% of the videos throughout the course of my time with Apple. And but I think what Steve's alluding to is my frustration that I shared with him off the air last time, that I'm being paid to do something that somebody else is doing and getting paid more to do.
Yeah.
So, but it's fine. I've come to terms with it.
Did you have anything in like your contract that would have prevented something like this from happening? Maybe something that would have stated like, if you hire anybody else, it has to go through me and I have to be the person to hire them, or, something like that.
Nope.
Do you care because you're just getting paid? So who cares?
Well, and that's what everyone keeps telling me whenever I complain to anyone in the campaign about I'm like, gosh, because the problem is the guy that's shooting it, he's not doing a terrible job. I mean, it's not like the quality is like super subpar.
Dustin, throw him under the bus. Throw him under the bus. Come on.
But it is lower in quality than what I think I would do if I was there. Especially when they're mixing his interview shots with my B-roll.
Yeah, but some Dustin McKibben B-roll, those awkward, sweet drone shots, some of that good slow-mo. How is a talking head gonna, work well with that? Like, the talking head's always gonna look worse than what that sweet-ass Dustin McKibben B-roll. I've been there. I've watched that Dustin McKibben shoot that B-roll. It's sweet as hell.
Well, I think the best way to explain it is, imagine if you just had two photographers at the same wedding you were shooting, and one knew what they were doing, and one was like an 80-year-old man who was a good photographer in his time, but
back on in the days of film,
shoots right. He shoots a very traditional, he shoots kind of like Steve. And then,
I love it. Yeah. So he's great. He's probably the best person you've ever worked with. Okay, got it.
Exactly.
I love that.
That's why I'm not complaining. So
I mean, he could shoot like Dustin, and there'd be weird ass Dutch angles all over the.
I definitely we had a bunch of shoots today, and I definitely was like making some super big passive aggressive like comments to the owner of the ad agency.
How'd that play out for you? How'd that play out for you?
I probably overstepped a little too much, but because the last video he put out, the audio isn't synced properly, and I think the mids and the low tones, there's something wrong with it, so it sounds very like high pitched, or I don't know. I'm not like an audio engineer by any means, but there's definitely something going on with the audio.
So sounds like he recorded at 44.1 kilohertz and edited in a 48 kilohertz timeline, something like that, or maybe backwards 48 kilohertz to 44.1, like in our second and third episodes of our podcast.
Exactly. There's something going on with the audio, and I mean, if you listen to it on an iPhone, you're not really going to be able to tell. But if you like have headphones on and you're on a computer, like I'm always at, you can tell something's going on. But so like today we were doing a shoot, and I had two microphones on the guy we were interviewing, and I was like, yeah, look, I put two microphones on people I interviewed just so that I know my audio is really good.
And he was like, it doesn't work like that, kid. It doesn't work like that.
And he kind of looked at me and he's like, is that professional jealousy? And I was like, I think of it more as professional curiosity.
Oh my gosh. How are you not fired? How are you not fired already?
I was like, that joke didn't even make sense, Dustin. What are you doing right now?
Yeah, this is so weird. Then, if you had any hopes of ever working with this guy in the future, you just flushed them all down the toilet today.
Which is totally fine with me. And then, so one of the shoots we did this morning, we're doing kind of the reverse for once. I shot the interview and he's putting it together with B-roll he has. Mm-hmm. And then, so I gave them the files, and then I shot an interview on the second half of the day that I'm putting together this weekend. And we were going through kind of how we're putting that spot together. And he's like, yeah, just use whatever B-roll you want for it. And he's like, I can see if the other guy has any B-roll. He's like, well, he doesn't really shoot B-roll, so he probably doesn't really have any because he's been using yours. And I'm like, because only a true master of video can do B-roll. And he kind of looked at me, and he's like, oh yeah, because B-roll is like really the hard part. And I was like, I think B-roll is the backbone of storytelling. And only a true storyteller can craft brilliant B-roll.
I love that I put this in before you just went and like blew up your own spot. And I love that now you're like, hey, let me tell everybody about how I screwed this up so bad.
Well, what's funny is he did kind of think about it, and he's like, well, you're not half wrong. B-roll is really the backbone of like a good video.
Is it though?
I
feel like the backbone of a good video is a good story, and the B-roll helps tell the story, but there's not a good story there to begin with.
Yeah, I leave that to him.
I mean, if we're just talking craft here, if that's what you wanted to do, like it's really story. And use B-roll to kind of set like a vibe and a mood and to explain things happening in the story. But I mean, that's just me, complete outsider here, not involved in this campaign at all.
Complete outsider, no insight into Apple or how we operate at Apple. You know?
Yeah. I mean, maybe what they really like there is just a bunch of random B-roll shots that have nothing to do with what's going on in the story.
See? Now you're getting it, Steve. I told you just take your Ivy League video education and throw it out the window, Steve.
Ball State University, it's Ivy League now. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, Dustin, I got a question for you.
I want to get that rumor going.
It's a real estate related thing. Do you want to talk some real estate in here? Rand from a random
Steve,
Facebook
that's my favorite thing to talk about.
Group said he's doing photos of a house. There's artwork hanging on a wall. It's a painting, almost as large as the whole damn wall. Next to the painting is a plaque with the artist's name and also a small copyright warning stating that reproduction of the artwork is illegal and anyone doing so will be fined. So Rand was curious, Dustin, do you need to blur that out in the photos Or should he deliver the real estate agent
Wow.
as is?
That is a fascinating question. Where did you find that? That is so on brand. Gosh, I don't know. Like that. I mean, that's a question. That's a real humdinger. I'd like to really like maybe pick the brains of a couple of realtors, see like how they would handle it.
How would a realtor handle that? They'd be like, "What's copyright law?"
Because I know, but that's the thing is like I would defer to like what they want to do, because at the end of the day, like, you know, I'm turning these images over to them to use, and if they use it in a way that misrepresents, you know, copyright law, that's kind of on them.
No, it's not. They're not the ones who made a reproduction of the artwork. That's you, the person who took the photo.
But you're not technically making a reproduction of an artwork.
You technically are making a digital reproduction of the artwork.
You're shooting a shot of a room, but it's not.
It technically is.
I think as a judge would interpolate that not as, no, because you're not like trying to sell a photo of a room saying like, hey, check out this piece of, you know, this piece of art. It's just a picture of a room.
It doesn't matter.
So I would have to say you're fine. Now, if he was to show like, you know, the full frame of the photo is just that piece of artwork, then you might be in a little bit of a stickier situation, which I would definitely do. I mean, if it's worth some money, take a 34 megapixel picture of that, print it off, and put it on eBay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know,
Steve, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I mean, you love those sticky situations.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. That's why you're all about that sticky, icky in your vapist lifestyle.
It's eBay. It's what it's for. And back when I used to sell those Tiger Woods signed autograph pictures, you know what I mean?
So I brought this up because I thought you'd have a really, really weird take on the situation that would be batshit crazy and wrong. Dustin, you can't do a digital reproduction of somebody else's artwork. You can get in trouble for that. Like, you can get sued for that.
Maybe if you lived in like New York City or something where people care about these kind of things, but here in Fort Wayne, I mean, people are going to see art and they're going to be like, do you get that at Michael's or Hobby Lobby?
That is a good point, because in Fort Wayne, that house went for sale that was made by that professional architect, like famous professional. Shoot, I can't think of his name right now.
The one that I tried to get you to buy.
Yeah, but he, the architect, had, when he built the house, he created a mural over an entire wall. And the mural itself was valued at like $30,000 or something like that.
Wow.
And there were pictures of that mural listing of the house.
See? There you go. There's your answer right there.
Technically illegal, but...
And I know the photographer who shot that house, so I'm going to have to ask him about that.
I think since when you buy the house...
Time to shut his business down.
I don't know how that works. This is why I thought this would be something that'd be fun to talk about.
So let's take this a step further, Stephen, because this has my wheels spinning here. Here in Fort Wayne, something that's becoming a initiative in the city itself is wall murals in alleyways, on the underpasses of the train tracks.
Oh,
like,
I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about illegal graffiti artists, aren't you? Yeah, you're talking about vandals and hooligans out there with their spray bottles.
Legal murals.
Canning up them walls with that gunky junk.
And so, like, it's becoming really trendy to get your senior photos or your engagement photos or even your wedding photos in front of these mural walls. And I'm sure the artists are flattered. Like, oh, my mural's viral on Instagram. But couldn't they, like, technically sue you for reproducing their mural? Or is that a different median when there's a couple in front of the wall?
No, it's actually the same exact problem. You could get in trouble for that, especially if you're if you're doing commercial work with it, because then you could get sued for much more money than if it's for personal use. But if the city, the graffiti is blurred out in the background to the extent where you couldn't actually make out what it is. So basically, you're shooting at like f2.0, and you're just using the graffiti to get like a pop of color
Which
behind
we
them.
all know Steve doesn't do.
Yeah, no, I'm at 1.4, so. But yeah, no, if you're trying to get that blur behind them, then it would be fine. But if you take a photo where like the artwork is sharp and you can see it, then yeah, you could get in trouble for that.
We all like sharp art, Steve. I'm all about that sharp art.
Yeah. Which is why I thought this real estate question was so intriguing, because when you're shooting real estate, what are you shooting those rooms at? Aperture.
F8.
F8.
Typically,
yeah.
I'm typically around F7, F8.
So any artwork hanging on those walls would be in focus.
I do occasionally.
And if it's a larger piece of art where it's taking up almost an entire wall, it could be seen as the sole point of focus in the photo.
So what I would probably do, honestly, in this situation, if the realtor informs me or the person selling the home informed me that the art wasn't coming with the house, I would probably superimpose a self-portrait of myself, like a nice black and white nude, into the frame where the art was.
Would that be a nice black and white nude taken by maybe director Charles from AnnieLeibovitz.com?
Yeah, I'd be like super tasteful. Yeah. I'd be doing something where I'm like.
Sometimes I forget when I say these things to Dustin that he doesn't ever read our email, so he doesn't know that I've been emailing back and forth with somebody claiming to be working for Annie Leibovitz, saying that Dustin and I would love to be models for her next project, but only on the condition that we can do full frontal nudity.
Sure. I have not seen these emails, but I think they need to be posted in our Facebook group. Did you send them examples?
Yeah. Well, I didn't have any photos of you full frontal naked, so I had to draw them out. And I'm not really capable of doing much more than a stick figure. And a lot was, left to my imagination. So, Dustin, I let my imagination run wild. There are several sticks that I don't know if you know what those sticks do.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I almost wanted to do the same thing today from a non-scam like email.
Like a real client got to you, and you were like,
a client.
Yes, only if I can be naked.
No. When we built our house, we knew we wanted to put a fence in, but we forgot to put that we wanted to put a fence in like our building specs. And so then we just put the fence up on our own. And I guess that's a big no-no when you live in a super strict neighborhood.
Yes, it is.
Like yours?
Yeah. Or yours.
And so, exactly. Well, they sent us a very threatening email about how we have this unauthorized fence, and we have 10 days to respond to this letter, or else I don't know what else. That's the funny thing about the letter. There's no what the cops are going to show up and take my fence out of my yard.
So Dustin, you can be sued for that fence.
I know. I've done some research since this.
You could have your house taken away from you over that fence. This is very serious, actually, because your homeowner's agreement is like a binding contract that you signed. So you want to respond to this one.
So I emailed them our fence plans that the the fence company does when they the contract, and then I asked in the email, I was like, do you need pictures of the fence? And then they wrote back and they said, yes, can you send a picture? And I thought about sketching, because they're like, we need to know what the fence looks like. And so I wanted to draw a picture of the fence and send it to them and tell them my camera was broken or something.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I sent.
And then my sign off would be Dustin McKibben, professional photographer. And then my
amateur artist. I thought you were going to be
amateur artist.
So I took a picture of the fence and then I photoshopped some dope ass wizards vaping onto it.
Oh no, that would have been even better.
It was like Gandalf up in there blowing sailboats through rings.
Oh, I did have a moment because I just snapped a photo on my new iPhone with the wide angle lens because I can do that. And but I did have a moment where I was like, if I had more time, I would have photoshopped some dragons flying through the sky or some dinosaurs in the woods behind my house or something.
Yeah, no, all things that should be considered. Dustin, I got a question
That's
for
how
you.
seriously I take these association threats.
Yes, I got a question for you, Dustin. Minimums. Had a few people approach me recently and ask if I have
different than maximums.
Yeah, it's very different than a maximum. I've had a few people approach me recently, like potential clients, and ask if I have a minimum payment amount for a wedding. Like, is there a minimum amount they have to pay in order for me to consider them as a client? Now, the people who have approached me, they've all been elopement type weddings, and they've all approached Redwood Lane, not Jennifer Van Oak Photography, because I think they knew Jennifer Van Oak Photography would not would have a minimum. Also, I'd like to point out none of them.
They're more of a maximum type of guy.
None of these people have booked me. Most of them have just not gotten back to me, period. One of them was the person who got back to me and was like, my sister or my friend or something like that is going to shoot the wedding. Or maybe it was my sister's friend.
My sister's friend? She's got a new iPhone Pro.
Yeah. So, Dustin, do you have a minimum?
Steven, I guess I don't follow the
Is there
the
a minimum amount of money a client would have to pay you to get you to work on a Saturday? Like, do you have a minimum package, a minimum price point? Where are you at?
Absolutely.
Where's
so
that
we
at?
charge $300 an hour,
Yeah.
and we have a 10-hour minimum.
Are you shitting me right now?
No, we don't have a minimum hourly, but we just
I was going to say $300 an hour for 2 photographers.
Oh, I didn't say that included 2 photographers.
10 hours? That's a lot. It's a lot for not very much.
No, we do $300 an hour, and that's just one photographer, and that doesn't include the files. That's just us showing up, shooting.
That's just a service charge for you being there. It doesn't include any deliverables.
Correct. Oh, there's an online gallery. They can browse.
Do you have an actual package with no deliverables?
Yeah, our first package.
The no deliverable package. I will show up to your wedding with a camera. I will take photos. Now, whether or not you'll be able to purchase said photos depends on whether or not I bring a real camera with me. I'm more there for the general ambiance on the day. I'm the photographer for people who don't want photos.
I'm more there so people can say, wow, they had a really great photographer.
Yes. I've been doing a lot of improv classes. I've been quite good at this.
I do doctor Monday through Friday, improv speaking, just so the hospital looks like they have doctors. And then, I do the wedding thing.
You'd be surprised what you can get away with if you just come in with a confident attitude.
Every now and then I do the whole priest bit on Sundays. They need a few extra people to work the confessional. Drink the wine. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Ray Donovan.
I don't even know what that is.
I know. That's why it's not fun to say those kind of things when you don't know what it is.
Man. So, you do have a minimum.
So,
what is
anyways,
it price-wise?
Steve, to go back around, what is your minimum? Because I've told you mine now. Now show me yours.
Minimum I would do for an elopement if it was on a Saturday would be $1,500, and that would be just me, and it'd be 3 hours.
So you're $500 an hour.
Yeah, and that wouldn't include travel
expenses. Anything with that?
Yeah, they'd get a digital gallery of their photos.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all. Because I'm worth it, baby. Yeah. I'm worth it.
Okay.
Yeah,
got nothing for you.
No,
I think you're worth it. I can't criticize you for that. I think you're worth it,
I
Steve.
think this is the reason why these couples haven't booked me or gotten back to me or have gone with their sister's friend or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's okay because I don't really want to give up a Saturday to do a shoot with somebody who doesn't want to, compensate me for my time and my expertise.
Yeah. Makes sense. I'd book you.
I mean, what do you charge for like just an hour-long portrait session?
$300.
$300? That's all? Yeah.
That's it.
Do I need to lower my prices?
If you want to make money, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. I really enjoy not making any money ever. That's been great for me.
I know. But no, we charge between $300 and $400 for portrait sessions. It depends on if it's a senior or like a headshot or like what it is exactly. Like a senior is, I think we're currently charging like $450 for a senior. And then if it's then we offer like a hair and makeup thing on top of that they can get hair and makeup done. But we don't really do a lot of seniors because it's not really something I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then like engagement sessions are included in our packages, so that's not really something we price out. I think it's like $500.
Oh, so when you say
included.
$300 an hour for a wedding, that's including a free engagement session.
No. Engagement sessions are part of our wedding packages.
Oh,
you asked me what
okay.
my minimum was to shoot something, and I just gave you my hourly rate.
Well, the implication was minimum for a wedding or elopement.
Yeah, so if somebody called me and said, "Hey, Dustin, I want to get eloped on Friday," and I said, "Cool, Jay-Z, what's your budget? Like, what are you doing?"
And he said,
And they're like,
Beyonce's handling that. Duh.
Let me pass the phone. Hey, Beyonce, like, what's your budget for this? And they're like, it's going to be like super intimate, like no guests, just us at the park doing our thing. You know what I mean?
Bringing our kids.
Not even bringing our kids, just like vow renewal level stuff.
We're already married, so.
I'm like, cool. It's like $300 an hour. And if you want to buy a USB of the files, you're welcome to do that. It's $1 million for you, but
any other client would be, I don't know, $25. For you guys, it's $1 million.
$1 million. Or I sell the rights to the most beautiful tabloid.
TMZ.
Too much Zorro?
Too much Zorro. Our favorite tabloid. Dustin, do you want to do some Q&A with me?
Questions and answers me, Stevie.
Let's do some Q&A.
But Steve.
Louise Malcolm from our very own Facebook group says, not entirely sure if this is allowed or not. Is this allowed or not, Dustin? I gotta stop there. She says she'll take her chances. Roll the dice, Dustin. Got some dice right here. Ooh, that was an 8. It's only an 8-sided die, though, so that's pretty good, huh? Louise says, I guess I'm just going with it since you're oddly silent and not saying anything.
I don't understand why it wouldn't be allowed. Or why it would be allowed, for that matter.
I can't understand why it exists.
I'm trying to ponder the reason for this existence.
I'm so sorry, Louise. I'm so sorry. Louise is planning a West Coast road trip in October, starting in Vegas, up in San Fran, via Yosemite, then down to LA. Can anyone point her in the direction of some off-the-beaten-track things to do and what to avoid? An overnight stay in Yosemite is on the list for sure, but she'd also like to be able to say she'd pay in cheese. I don't understand that. Do you understand that? What the hell is this cheese thing? But being based in Scotland, I probably can't commit to this. Thanks, Louise.
Maybe cheddar, as in like you're paying.
I don't know, man. I only accept payment in Gouda.
I guess so. What I was confused about is
what podcast are you listening to, Louise, other than our podcast?
I guess I was confused or why she wasn't planning a trip through the Midwest coast.
Yeah.
In order to see Steven and I see, and that's why I thought maybe this question perhaps wasn't allowed because a trip out west does nothing for Steven and I. It doesn't stroke our egos. It doesn't say that you want to come see the great greenness and all these beautiful fall colors we're having right now.
Possibly be close to the blueness of, the Kentucky, but you don't want to go to Kentucky, so the bluegrass.
Right. I'm just disappointed, really. What is there to see in Yosemite?
So,
a bear?
Dustin, you've been out to the West Coast quite a few times for shoots. What would you say
Not as much as you.
to Louise? What should she plan to do on the West Coast?
I mean, I went to a couple parks when I was there. I was like, that's a rock. That's a boulder.
Yeah. I just,
Getty's kind of cool.
Louise, Dustin, and I are incredibly unfit to answer any question about the West Coast, and I don't know why we included this in the show notes.
Shut your mouth, Stephen Van Elk.
We'd be almost as well off answering questions about Scotland.
Louise, I wanted to let you know that Stephen and I are going to be offering West Coast travel, personal travel trips coming up in 2020. You can find more information out on Stephen Dustin, SaveTheWorld.com.
Lisa, I don't even know why you're going to California if you live in Scotland. It's basically the same place. Both places have rocks, dirt, ocean, sky. These things exist in both places. Louise, get away from California. Where you want to go, you know where you want to go? You want to come to the great state of Indiana. You go to Marengo Cave, down south. Now you don't have sky. You've taken sky away. This is a completely new experience. You also don't have light unless you bring it with you.
You come to Fort Wayne, you take mountains and hills away.
Yeah. Think about that, Luis.
All that rolling goodness gone.
Yeah. And there's so much that we don't have here. It's almost like a vacation for your eyes when you come to Indiana.
In fact, you should try to plan a styled shoot just to remind you why it's so great to live in Scotland.
In Indiana, you mean? Because when you live in Indiana, like you go to Michigan, you go to Illinois, you go to Ohio, you go to Kentucky, it's like there are things that are interesting there to look at and experience. And so every day for you is like a treat. You're 2 hours away from a beautiful treat every single day if you just go to a different state. California, you don't have that. It's treats all the time everywhere you are. Scotland, treats all the time everywhere you are. Visual treats, visual delights.
Speaking of Scotland, though.
James
Kelly from our very own Facebook group asked the following. Do you plan how long you want to be a wedding photographer for? Is this a career you hope to do until you retire, die, or do you only plan to do it for a set amount of time? I assume, James, you're asking this because you have no podcast of your own with listeners in which you can ask this to. So you must turn to us, Stephen Dustin of the Wedding Photo Hangover.
James. I'm not planning to do this until I die. I'm planning to do this till it kills me.
Because Steve is already dead.
I died inside a long time ago. This body, these limbs,
mercy.
They're being moved around by necromantic black magic. But
from
one day that'll
Brewery.
give out. Yeah. You think this is blood pumping through these veins? This is Eric Blood Axe pumping through these veins.
Eric's blood from his axe.
Yeah, Eric Blood Axe. It's not a beer. It's a man who kills people with an axe and lets me drink the blood.
Yes.
So I guess in that regard, it is blood pumping through these veins. It's just not mine, which is important.
But let's get real, because I am curious about this question. It's something that's been on my mind once I hit my 30s.
You're already in your 30s.
Shit, stop reminding me.
Oh my gosh. Did you just die inside when I said that?
Do you and Jennifer have an exit strategy?
Working on an exit strategy every single day. We can't get out of this fast enough. I got to say, the point I'm at right now, I really love shooting weddings. It's been really great the past 2 years. If I could do it until I died, that wouldn't be bad. I think I would enjoy that. Do I think that's feasible? No, I don't. Every year I get a little bit older and I lose a little bit more of my connection with my brides and my grooms. And every year I'm like fighting with other photographers who are still in it for those older brides and grooms, you know? You just got to get those old people. Old people, they want to be surrounded by old people because, you know, when you're 33 and you hire a photographer like me that's 35, like you can see death when you look at your photographer and it makes you feel alive. And you know, that's like a good feel because like, oh my gosh, I'm only 2 years younger than this guy and so much more fucking life inside me than him. But like when you see somebody who's like 55,
so much more chicken wings,
and you're 21, like 55 and 21, it's like I don't even see death anymore. What I see is the bleakness of non-existence. These photos don't matter. We'll all pass away someday, and these photos on these digital hard drives will turn into nothingness. They'll become dust. That's what happens with an age gap, like, you know, once you're in your 50s. So I don't know that I can do this forever. You know, I'm in my prime right now when people just look at me and think, oh my gosh, I'm glad I don't look as bad as him. I'm not going to have that much longer.
The odd part is Steven and I will feel so much older, so much faster when people because we are of the age of exponential technological growth. So like things that like, you know, our children and even like several generations older than our children, they won't have known those things like Steven and I did. So like, for example, I was shooting for a school this week, shooting some video, and one of the students or one of the faculty members showed one of the students an iPad or I'm not even going to get through this story. Showed them a Palm Pilot. And one of the students said, "Excuse me, what's a Palm Pilot?" And because the teacher still used it for a calculator. And wow. I just felt like
they should just put that teacher out to pasture
right there.
You know,
so I was like,
I had a similar
in my mind,
experience.
I was like, I'm pretty sure the president still has to use a Palm Pilot phone. Well, maybe not Trump.
You can't get on Twitter with that.
Obama was using a BlackBerry or a Palm
Pilot. He switched
Pilot
to an iPhone at the end. They had to relax government regulations because smartphones were everywhere, and it was like, how can you do your job without one? You know,
gots to have that Twitter.
This does remind me though. The last time I did see you, I was like, "Hey, Dustin, hop in the car. I got some badass 8-tracks I want to play for you." And you were like, "What is an 8-track?
Why do you have 8 tracks?"
Yeah, you were like, "Is there a Hot Wheels set in here somewhere with 8 tracks?"
Don't CD. I recall a day where CDs could hold 12 songs,
and an MP3 CD could hold 500. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean it's a crazy life, and Dustin, I just gotta ask. When you look at me, When you look at me, are you just like, oh my gosh, that's death? like my brides and grooms feel.
That's why I brought you to Africa with me, Steve. Because it's like, well, if he goes, he's already kind of gone. You know what I mean?
Like if we see any flora or fauna that could be dangerous, they'll go for the weak and elderly one. And we got there and we asked about the flora and fauna, and they were like, yeah, no, the only thing you might know of in Sierra Leone is a hippopotamus. We don't have lions. We don't have hyenas. We don't have cheetahs. We don't have giraffes. We don't have elephants. We don't have rhinoceros. And it's like all the stuff you think of when you think like the cool stuff in Africa, it's not in Sierra Leone. Except for little gazelles and antelopes or whatever. Those are there. Those are cool.
Those were tasty.
Hedgehogs were also tasty.
Hedgehog, yeah, that's what we ate a lot of. Yeah, it's just something I think about as far as James's question, getting back to the points here. That's, why I'm diversifying more into what I'm doing the real estate photography, doing more on the video side of things, doing more of the real estate investment as far as getting rental properties, start diversifying my portfolio, acting like an adult, because, I love the idea, like Steve, to shoot as many weddings as I can for the rest of the time my body will allow me to do it, or my wife, whatever comes first. But,
your body will come first.
Like in the interview with Bure and Gary, where we talked about, when your children are like feel like you're missing things. That's not something I really am a fan of. I don't want to be at a point where I feel like, I can't go to that performance because I have to do an engagement session, or I can't go to that soccer game because I have a wedding. So when my kids get to that age, I want to have a little bit more flexibility as to how my schedule goes. And I know there's a lot of people out there, especially the younger generation, that'll say like, oh my God, you're a wedding photographer that's as flexible as your schedule gets. And I'd say like, not many careers out there are you booking parts of your life away years to year and a half in advance.
So Dustin and I would like to take this moment just to announce that we're shutting down the wedding photo hangover. We're going to start a new podcast called the Diversifying Your Portfolio Hangover.
There you go. Spin-off podcast.
Yeah. We got to think about the future. So wedding photography podcasting is not something we can do forever. It's so hard on my body to sit in this chair and talk to you.
You got to buy a more comfortable chair. Look at this gaming chair. Look at this gaming chair.
You have to say words into the mic. You're just like
on
the other side of the room
to show you.
I can't hear you, and neither will our listeners be able to. Oh my gosh. You're a sick human being. Yeah. No. Yeah. You just farted. I got it. Yeah. I can't hear it though because your butt's so far away from the mic.
Next question. We didn't really answer James' question.
We did.
Hopefully somebody has a better answer.
You're going to die, James. Get out of this.
James, you just need to start looking for those damn leprechauns, find their gold, and start saving it. There's your retirement. Easy. We don't have that luxury here in the States. We don't have leprechauns like you guys have.
We also don't have potatoes. We don't have Belfast. What other things don't we have here in the States that they have in Scotland? We have snakes here. I know you don't have those in Scotland. We know who St. Patrick is, but St. Patrick didn't come to our country like he did to Scotland. Anything else we want to talk about that's specific to Scotland, Dustin?
Okay, I get it.
Do you?
They're Ireland, Scotland, it's all the same.
Lord of the Rings wasn't filmed here like it was in Scotland. Nobody here says good day, mate, like they do in Scotland.
Speaking of good day, mate, Lillian from, our very own Facebook group asked, how much do you charge for a destination wedding? If my biggest package is $4,500 and they would like a destination wedding 7 hours far in a car, how much extra do you think I would charge? We're 2 photographers, by the way.
Lillian, you got to ask yourself, how extra are you? You know what I'm saying?
What?
You know what I'm saying? Well, what kind of car are you renting to go there? You can't take your car, Lillian. You got to rent a Tesla. You know what I'm saying? No, scratch that. Tesla's not enough. You're too extra for that, Lillian. You gotta rent an Aston Martin, You want to get there in style. Dustin, name a more expensive car for her to rent. Quick, go.
Well, when you're talking about renting a car, Steve, you're making me sad because I rented a really nice car to come see you a week or two ago, and then you made me cancel my reservation, and therefore I didn't get to drive my really nice car that I rented. So now I'm a little bitter about this question. But Lillian, if we really want to get serious for a second and we really want to dive deep into your question that you ask in our very own Facebook group.
Lillian, you want to rent a car that comes with a windbreaker. Lillian, you want to rent a car that's so extra it comes with its own wardrobe, and you want to charge all of that to your client.
But Lillian, I think if we're gonna get serious, Steven, if we're really gonna dive into Lillian's question, I think we need to address the fact that Lillian ended her question with the fact that she was reaching out to us, Stephen, to let us know that she is secretly two people. I think that in itself is something we need to address. Mental health, as you addressed earlier in this podcast episode, is something that Lillian might need to get checked out. You know, maybe the fact that she thinks she's two people in one person, and the fact that she thinks she needs to charge extra for that, something. Steve, do you have any, comments, thoughts, emotions? I know you sometimes think you're a van and an elk.
No, Lillian, you do you. Go for it. If you can charge twice as much for yourself, do it. I don't see why that's a question, Dustin.
It's more of an answer, Stephen.
Lillian, now what we want to know is
help.
You're driving 7 hours. You asked about like driving distance. What you didn't ask about was like hotels. What hotels are you going to stay at? Because might I suggest, don't get a hotel. Airbnb, the most gigantic mansion you can find in town. If it doesn't cost more than $5,000 a night, it's not worth renting. And that, you pass that straight along to your client,
We have a strict hotel clause in our contract that states if where we're staying doesn't have a pool or a hot tub, that we can't shoot their wedding, or the client has to provide such aquatic activities for us.
So in your contract, it says if the hotel doesn't have a filth pool or a warm filth pool, I can't stay with you. If you don't have a giant vat of polio and a warm vat of polio, I can't stay at that place. That's what your thing says. Lillian, obviously throw out all of the advice Dustin is giving you. It is terrible. Terrible. You don't want to go into a polio vat of liquid. What you want to do is you want to stay at a place.
Are you an anti-hotel pool person?
You want to stay at a place with a sauna. You want to take the polio vapors, liquefy them, and get them in the air so you can breathe them in. Vape them even.
Vape them? I didn't know this, Steve. Are you an anti-hotel pool guy?
No, not at all. You have one kid, and all of a sudden, no matter what you were before in your life, you become a pool person at hotels. You know a quicker way to wear a kid out? There isn't one. You throw that kid in the pool and you say, learn to swim, and then you close your eyes. No, don't do that. Jeez.
No, what I've learned to do is at bedtime, you take each of their blankies, respectively, you tie it around the other, and then you watch them try to struggle to get out, and at the same time get their blanket off of the other one. Works amazing. Yeah. There's some tears, a lot of screaming.
And then the kids get out and they're able to calm you down.
They end up passing out in their own blankets. It's magic.
Yeah. So Lillian, I gotta say though, the stuff Dustin and I have been talking about, hotels, cars, all that, what photographers aren't telling you, and this is important because seasoned photographers, they're keeping the secrets of their craft to themselves. They don't want to share these things. They're like a Scottish leprechaun with its gold, And we don't want to do that, Lillian. So we want to bring you that good news. What is industry standard is to just ask your client to forward their credit card information to you. If they can actually just mail you a physical copy of the credit card, that works best. And then you can use their credit card to book your Airbnb stay, your yacht, your first class flight to Scotland and back. So you can, do a leprechaun hunt to try to get some good luck for your clients on their wedding day. These are all important things that Dustin and I do for every single destination wedding we're shooting, all with the credit card of our clients who we are shooting for. And that's just industry standard. Yes. So if the client pushes back on you at all, you just say, I'm sorry, this is the way it works. And they'll respect that.
This is the industry standard.
Yeah.
Maybe not the wedding photography industry standard, but a industry standard for, say, high-end escort services or something like that. But
which is what really, Dustin and I really do.
Yes. We're very high-end escorts.
Only for Annie Leibovitz.
And only in the nude.
Lillian, but for real, you're driving in a car. You pointed out it was 7 hours away. You want to charge for mileage anytime you're driving. What is that, like 50 cents a mile or something like that? And then
52 cents a mile.
Then you're also going to want to charge for your hotel stay and a per diem for food, drink, beverages for the time that you're there.
And then you also want to include podcast hosts.
Yeah. So you can fly me and Dustin out.
Because you're going to need to listen to podcast while you're on your trip.
Yeah.
So.
And what better than having two people with you to make the podcast?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm going to put it better myself, Dustin. I feel like, we knocked that one out of the park for Lillian.
Just a real slam dunk.
So I think that's going to do it for us this week here on the on the Diversifying Your Financial Portfolio Hangover podcast with Dustin and Steve. If you want to help us out, jump on iTunes or Stitcher and leave us a 5-star review. That's a 5-star review for Diversifying Your Creative Portfolio Financial Podcast with Dustin and Steve. You can find us there or anywhere else. If you want to connect, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Diversify Futures or on Twitter at DiversifyFuture.com. Dustin, I don't even know where I'm going with this anymore.
Yes, Steve.
Dustin's on Instagram at Dustin.
You're on a runaway train.
_ McKibben.
Diversification.
And Steven is at Diversification Van Elk. If you want to get involved with the awesome community of listeners, join the Wedding Hangover Facebook group. The Diversify Your Portfolio Facebook group. But if you really want to warm our hearts, head on over to Steve and Dustin SaveTheWorld.com, because no matter what crazy thing we change the name of the podcast to, we're not changing the Patreon. And you can sign up to support us for as little as 99 cents a month. Shit, that's still wrong. You can sign up to support us for as little as $1 a month. At $1 a month, you're going to get awesome outtakes from our guest episodes. And if you bump it up to $5 a month, you're going to get awesome outtakes from our guest episodes. And you're also going to get that good Steve and Dustin Save the World podcast, where we do more Facebook questions. More and more. It just never stops.
It's the really good questions, right, Steve? It's like the creme de la crop of
It's
questions.
the really crappy questions. The questions I'd be embarrassed to say out loud on a public podcast like this one.
You say crappy, I say
Cremmy.
like some people don't like certain cheeses because they're like, that must be like a really crappy cheese. Whereas some people,
you could probably pay people in cheese
might
in
be
Scotland.
Like, ooh, this is fantissimo.
Yeah. All sounds good.
Yeah, that's like our super secret podcast.
Yeah, so that was a weird aside for no damn reason. It's extremely helpful to us when you sign up to support us on Patreon and to the making of this podcast. This podcast takes a lot of my time and a little bit of Dustin's too. So every little bit helps.
Everything's a pie graph.
Everything's a pie graph.
We all have pieces. Oh
my gosh, I'm never going to get through this. We'll be here for you. The next time your head's pounding, your limbs feel like dead weight, and your entire being aches for the sweet embrace of death, that's right next Sunday after you shoot another wedding.
Or real estate shoot, or commercial video.
We've gone so long. Can we close this thing out? Let me close this.
Why, Steve?
Dustin, is there anything you want to tell the listeners about? Like maybe better tiers of our Patreon?
No. I wanted to ask you if you were able to help tonight. I saw.
We're not talking about that on the podcast because I don't know if he's cool with that. I didn't ask him, so.
You and your privacy laws.
Yeah, well, think about something else. Let's try that again. Dustin, we rolled out some awesome new tiers on the Patreon. Do you want to talk about that? Or for the 5th time in a row, Do you want to get me off track and just start talking about some other random thing?
Oh, wow. That's a really tempting proposition. Before I get into our Patreon goodness, I wanted to share a funny little thing that happened this week.
Share it.
That I thought only you. As soon as this happened, I was almost going to pick up my phone and call because I wish you had been there. So we're shooting these videos for the school that I work with. And do you remember that little boy we interviewed last year? Steven, come back to me.
This is so funny.
Do you remember,
oh my gosh. It's so funny, and I am the only person who understands it. I'm so glad you shared this with me.
I'm getting there.
Oh my
Give me a minute.
I'm dying over here. The joke wasn't that you shot the school again and didn't hire me this time.
No. I wanted good audio this time around. Do you remember the little boy?
No, I don't.
Okay. Then the joke won't make sense.
Okay. I'm glad we did that.
Okay, no, I'm going to tell it anyways because I don't care. This is for me now, not for you.
F my life.
So the teacher has this is like probably, I don't know, third grade class, second grade class, something like that. She has all of these, like sentences up on the board that, and the kids have to go up and point out if it's a noun, adjective, whatever. And so the sentence reads, the flash went zoom or something like that.
Oh, I'm so bored.
And the little boy goes up and she says, tell me which one's the adjective. And he said, well, zoom, but technically zoom's also a noun because he was the villain in season 2 of The Flash. And the whole time I'm like, I don't know if I'm more nerdy because I know that as well. No, see, you smiled. You might not have laughed, but you smiled. So I'll take validation in that.
I hate my life. I hate my life so much. I hate this friendship.
Because you also watched The Flash. Oh,
we are rolling out some new tiers on the Patreon for anybody who's interested. There's basically the highest level is if somebody wants to sponsor the podcast. Dustin and I are, am I allowed to say this? We're talking with a few companies, and we're only talking with one company we actually want to sponsor. A few companies
are courting us, if you know what I mean.
Well, I already turned down a few of the companies, like the raw photo compression company. We've already turned them down, Dustin. They're gone. But we've been in talks with a few different companies about possibly sponsoring the podcast, and Dustin and I were thinking about it, and we said, hey, maybe before we just open it up to randos who don't listen to the podcast, maybe it'd be better to open it up at a lower price to people who actually listen to the podcast. So it's going to sound like a lot of money, but for $100 a month, you can sign up on Patreon to support us, and we'll do ad reads for your workshop once a month, and we'll thank you at the end of every single episode of the show. So if you have like a workshop or an educational thing that you want to support, and you feel like this is a good place to promote it, that you want to promote, not support, then we would love to have you on. And we kind of know that this is probably a stretch for most people who listen to the podcast, so don't feel bad if nobody wants to do this, but we just thought it would be good to open something like that up to our listeners before we just get in bed with a bunch of random strangers. A music bed.
It just sounds like, a typical Sunday for Steve.
An audio bed. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
Could be filled with honey. They might have books.
Yeah. So,
could have a lot of hats, perhaps 17 of them. We don't know. These are things we don't know. They could like squares in spaces.
There's also some other tiers we're opening up with some other various rewards. If you guys are interested in any of that kind of stuff, it's all on the Patreon, and you can check it out. And it's been like 3 minutes of me edifying our podcast with stupid Patreon stuff, and I hate it. So let's do something else.
Let's do something else. Let's talk about Arby's.
Can I just say
mozzarella sticks?
So I was at a drive-through today. I guess it was an Arby's. Yay! I cut all that other stuff out because we went on an 8-minute tangent. Gosh. Yeah. So, Dustin, have you ever gone up to the drive-through window and you get to the point where you got to pay and you realize my wallet is in my back pocket? And so now you have to like basically dig in your butt for your wallet in front of somebody who's like sat there staring right at you, usually with their hand out because they're waiting for money or a credit card. And they're just like watching you dig in your butt.
Yeah. Okay. So where are you going with this, Steve? Are you assuming that this isn't something they don't see on a regular basis?
No, that's where I'm going. I'm pointing out the absurdity of this. Why don't we all just take our wallets out when we get in our car, put it right in the center console, maybe up on the dash, somewhere where it's easily accessible, especially if we know we're going to a place like this.
You do
I
that.
never do. I'm always that weirdo who's like,
I don't carry a wallet.
Let me get on one butt cheek right now and dig my wallet out of the other butt cheek.
I don't carry a wallet on me.
Oh my gosh, what is this world we've come to?
I lost my wallet. I was one of those complete morons who was pumping gas and had my hands full, and so I sat my wallet on top of my car.
Did you not have pants with pockets? Did you not have pants with pockets?
Nope, no pants with pockets. And, did my credit card in the gas pump, put the credit card, in my hand. Then I received a phone call, which is why my hands were full. So I was on the phone doing the gas pump. So phone in one hand, credit card in the other, wallet on top of car, and then pulled away from the gas pump with my wallet on top of my car.
I guess in the grand scheme of things, I'd rather be a butt digger than a wallet loser. So I guess that all works out in the end. Dustin, we need to call this one quits. It's been a long time.
Steven, I've never been a quitter.
I am quitting you.
Steve, don't break up with me.
I just can quit you. I just can.
Steve. Guys, we have lost Steven Van Elk. If anyone sees him, just shake an Eric Blood axe, and he'll come to you.
He'll come running.
Oh, there he is. See? All I had to do. That's all I had to do. Shake.
I heard Eric Blood axe. Damn it. You got me again.
Wow. It's magic.
Good night, Dustin.
Runs through his veins.
Good night, Dustin. Shut the hell up and go to sleep. Bye.
Bye.
I'm going to question you so fucking hard.
Okay.
Wedding Photo Hangover was edited this week by Steve Van Elk of Bespoke Tone. Go to Bespoke Tone for all of your photo, video, and audio editing needs. Woo-wee!